An 8th gen budget beast has entered the scene. Yet another sign that 8th gen gaming is starting to pop off in the super budget range. With entire systems containing the i7-8700 listed for less than $150 more and more frequently. This is one such system. A bit of a chunk that is cheap but powerful. The Dell Precision 3630 MicroTower. Preface alert. I understand that the concept of a budget gaming PC is relative and can mean quite a lot of different things. For now, this machine came complete with the i7-8700, 8GB of RAM, and only cost about $120. I'll still have to add a GPU, and this system is not perfect, as you'll see. But there is one significant advantage this has over other similar OEM machines. The 24-pin power connector on the motherboard. We'll go over a few simple upgrades, a couple slightly more complex ones, and then see what this system can do. And along the way, see why the 24-pin connector makes a big difference. I'll start by breaking this beast down. It's a little weird at first, but not too crazy. There's a couple of sliders that you have to move to the unlock position, then a lever to pull to release the panel. The disassembly to this point is toolless, which is always appreciated, and we should be ready for some upgrades now that we have the case open. Are there any Sephiroths in there? Why would Sephiroth be in there? I'm just always on the lookout for Sephiroths. That's fair. Quick upgrades first. And I just have to say right now, incredible chair desk compatibility. This came with the i7-8700 processor, which is 6 cores, 12 threads, 3.2 GHz base, 4.6 GHz turbo boost. With an older system like this, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to clean and reapply the paste, but we should be fine for the time being. With the i7-8700, we can run up to DDR4 2666 RAM. This came with 8 GB, but I'm going to throw another 8 GB stick in. We could definitely do more, but I don't plan on getting too wild at this point. After that, I'm dropping in an M2 SSD for the operating system and core applications. And that should do with the basic upgrades, so now it's time to move on to the GPU and get a little crazy. Just a tidbit. Before we can move on to the GPU, we need to do a power supply swap, which brings us to this connector, which makes a massive difference. Most decent GPUs, and especially decent budget GPUs, require PCIe power connectors. The existing stock power supply, at least in this model, doesn't have any. But the 24-pin motherboard connector allows us to install a generic PSU without any adapters. This sets it apart from other similar OEM devices that have proprietary connectors on the board. I'm looking at you, Z440. Shame! 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 The new PSU that we install will give us the PCIe connectors that we need for the GPU. In this case, the GTX 1080 Ti AI. There are GPUs that don't require these connectors, but they tend to be more expensive and less powerful. Just a general hit in terms of price to performance. We're losing out a bit with adding the cost of the new power supply, but a used hardware fiend such as myself always has a couple of these lying around. Also, I could sell the stock PSU to offset the cost of the new one if I were so inclined. Alright, with the power supply and GPU connected, I have the system fired up. And already we're doing better than the last video. It actually works. Everything's rolling along, I have the OS and drivers for the GPU installed, and we're going to test out some budget gaming. Everything I run will be 1080p with highest in-game graphical settings. So let's see what this system can do by seeing what it can Doom. I'm never gonna stop making that joke. It's never gonna stop, baby! Doom Eternal is a 2020 game, also a very well-optimized game. No surprise it's running really well, maintaining a solid 144 FPS, which is the highest my monitor is capable of. Looking pretty good so far. Next up is a game that's a little newer, at least this version. This is Crysis 3 Remastered, which was released in 2022. So I guess we'll be asking the centuries-old question, can it run Crysis? And I have to say, I was a little surprised with this one. It's hanging around 90 FPS with some dips down to around the 70s and 80s. At the high points, it's around 100, 110. I would have expected a little more from this system, though it still looks nice and is perfectly playable. Keep in mind, again, this is a budget system, but we're looking pretty good overall in terms of price to performance. Another thing worth mentioning is that there is some room to upgrade this system. This chunk. Look at the chunk! No, I actually like the cosmetic design of this. This specific listing came with the 8700, but it can hold 9th gen processors, up to the i9-9900K, which should in turn allow it to run a higher speed of RAM. Anyway, for now, I'm probably going to be pulling the CPU for another build that I'm doing. So maybe somewhere down the line, I can really try to push this thing with some heavier upgrades. I'll have to see how things kind of play out, but for now, thank you for watching.